Transgender athletes in women's sports is something we've all heard about. What was once a joke is now becoming a reality, and it's time we have an honest conversation about it. You are not transphobic for asking genuine questions about this topic. None of us are. There's all this talk about being inclusive, but there does come a point where being inclusive starts to exclude. We're witnessing biological men expose themselves in women's bathrooms, including in high school. We're witnessing biological men transition into women and completely crushing women's records. We're witnessing 8-year-old biological boys transitioning and playing sports with little girls. And quite frankly, there's a lot of people who disagree with all of this. And let me be clear, disagreeing is not equal to being hateful or discriminatory. What one person finds to be discriminating towards trans people is what another person finds discriminating towards biological women.
Lia Thomas, a transgender athlete.
Her presence has been a big source of controversy.
We've seen split support.
What has it been like to be Lia Thomas?
It's been a very, very interesting experience at times. There's been a lot of noise, but it's been incredibly rewarding and meaningful to be able to be authentic and to be myself and be out and proud as a trans woman.
Lia Thomas pulling away over the final 150 meters. Thomas wins the NCAA championship.
How does it make you feel when you think about the fact that you're the first transgender person to ever win an NCAA Division I championship?
I'm very humbled and honored to hold that title, and I can only hope that I'm able to give other trans people the inspiration and motivation I was given.
We're gonna get into Lia Thomas's numbers, but something to note is that Will Thomas, before Lia transitioned, they were just your average collegiate swimmer. But as soon as they transitioned, boom, breaking records. That's all it took. Literally, there was no effort needed or change. It's just they were the same person, switch genders, and then boom, shattering records.
What do you think is the biggest misconception people have about you, specifically?
The biggest misconception, I think, is the reason why I transitioned, where people will say, oh, she just transitioned, so she would have an advantage, so she could win. I transitioned to be happy, to be true to myself. It was a very difficult time. I was just stuck in this depression, and I struggled with suicidal thoughts. Being trans is not a choice. I didn't have any other choice.
And this is something that they're also telling children and parents now when they're going to these consultations about having gender dysphoria or being confused about themselves. The doctors are basically just saying, hey, either you transition your kid or they're just gonna die. That's literally all most of these doctors are out here just telling all these parents and little kids, that you have to transition the kid or they're just gonna pass away. And that's such a shady thing for a doctor to do, and it's so unfortunate because it's not the truth for all people.
What are some of the changes that you experienced?
I started hormone replacement therapy in May of 2019.
Are we watching the same thing? We are? Okay, cool. I just want to make sure we're on the same page about what we're seeing and how they're in women's races. And this is...
One of the biggest was loss of muscle mass. I had a lot of fat redistribution, changed sort of how my body looks and the shape. I shrunk, actually, probably about an inch in height. My feet got smaller. I'm about half a shoe size or a full shoe size smaller now. And so it really does change your entire body.
Those are not big changes
reaction do you have
at all
toward other folks who feel that
like,
you shouldn't be able to
am I
compete?
bugging?
Trans women competing in women's sports does not threaten women's sports as a whole, because trans women are a very small minority of all athletes, and the NCAA rules regarding trans women competing in women's sports have been around for 10 plus years. And we haven't seen any massive wave of trans women dominating.
But now we do. Now we are seeing this wave of trans women dominating. And that's why it's becoming more of a mainstream topic, because it's something we're all having to deal with and we're seeing, witnessing before our eyes. Yeah, the rules have been there, but again, like I've always said on this channel, it wasn't until the last few years where everything just hit the fan regarding gay relations. And oh my gosh, this is just so mind-blowing to me. It really is. So that's Lia Thomas. On this channel, I love to go straight to the source. So I wanted you all to hear straight from her thoughts, her opinions as a trans woman, and what she has gone through. So now we're gonna take a look at one of her swimming competitions. Crazy. 40 seconds. I got lit from that music. I hope I could keep that in here. That is astonishing. Major props to Lia. That is an incredible feat. Very talented swimmer. I couldn't swim like that, that's for sure. I'm not claiming I can. She's talented. She's amazing. That's great. However, is it fair? Looking at the optics, looking at these clips, looking at Lia and hearing her experience, is it fair? When looking at the numbers, what you'll find is that the 2018 and 2019 season for the male swim team, formerly known as Will Thomas, placed 554th in the 200 freestyle, 65th in the 500 freestyle, and 32nd in the 1650 freestyle. In the 2021 to 2022 season, now known as Lia Thomas, her ranks are 5th in the 200 freestyle, 1st in the 500 freestyle, and 8th in the 1650 freestyle. Lia has done so well that they have now been nominated for Women of the Year.
Well, the transgender woman and competitive swimmer Lia Thomas has been nominated for the National Collegiate Athletic Association Woman of the Year Award.
Like, that's amazing. But when looking at the graph, is there much to say about what is happening and what is going on regarding transgender athletes in sports? Like, I want to have a real conversation here, and I want to be honest and clear. None of this is hateful and none of this is transphobic. We're just looking at the data for what it is. All it took was for one biological man to say, nope, I'm living my truth. I am now a woman, and boom, records shattered, and they're achieving Women of the Year awards. That's all it took. So my question to the biological woman out there, is this okay? Are you fine with this? Are you okay with this happening more and more? Are you okay with trans women coming into your spaces and dominating like this? This isn't to say that trans people don't deserve a space. They do deserve a space, and I personally think their own space. We've been living in this world the past few years where there's LGBTQ spaces, there's people of color spaces. Okay, well, what about women's spaces? What happened to those spaces? Like, we're so gung-ho for protecting certain classes of society, but it's like women aren't being protected. They are, but in the guise of accepting trans women when there's trans women and then there's women, you know? Regardless, now I want to introduce you to Riley Gaines and Paula Scallon. I hope I'm saying her name correct. They're both biological women who have competed with Lia Thomas.
My name is Riley Gaines, and I'm an ambassador for Independent Women's Voice, and I'm here today to urge you to protect women's sports and uphold the original intent of Title IX. My story is by now well known. I was a student at University of Kentucky, where I was also a member of the women's swim team, finishing my collegiate career as a 12-time NCAA All-American, a 5-time SEC champion, still the SEC record holder in the 200 butterfly, making me one of the fastest Americans of all time. In March of 2022, female swimmers from around the country and I were forced to compete at NCAAs against Lia, formerly Will Thomas. We watched as this male swam to a women's national title, beating out the most impressive and accomplished female swimmers in the nation, including Olympians and American record holders. Despite tying down to the 100th with Thomas in the 200 freestyle, I was denied the trophy because the NCAA claimed it was necessary for Thomas to hold the trophy when photos were being taken. It was clear to me, my teammates, and my competitors that they had reduced everything we had worked our entire lives for down to a photo op to validate the feelings and the identity of a male. But that's not all. In addition to losing out on opportunities to Thomas, we also had to share a locker room and change in front of this 6'4", fully intact, naked male. And as I've testified previously, we were not forewarned of this arrangement. We were not asked for our consent, and we did not give our consent to this exposure and to be exploited.
That is exactly what I was referencing regarding women's spaces. Lost for words, because I cannot believe it's 2023, about to be 2024, and we're still having this discussion. 6'4", fully intact biological male that is now a trans woman just parading around the women's locker rooms. Y'all are fine with that? I'm...
And in various sports, males are entering women's athletic competitions, being given spots on women's teams, and being granted entry to our locker rooms. There are numerous documented instances of males competing not just in women's swimming, but also in women's track, cross country, basketball, volleyball, field hockey, and other sports at all levels of competition. This issue is incredibly underreported for various reasons. But common sense Americans know intuitively that this is not fair to women. And science, of course, supports that instinct. In fact, studies consistently show males have about a 10 to 12% athletic advantage over females. This gap is evident in almost every sport and at every level of competition. Yes, hormone therapy can narrow this gap, but it cannot close it. And studies consistently demonstrate that surgery and testosterone suppression do not reduce male athletic performance to normal female levels. Take Thomas, for example. He was mediocre against the men at best, ranking 400ths and 500ths nationally, then dominating all of the women in the entire country by body lengths, might I add, in a matter of a year. Not only do women have to worry about losing opportunities and being exploited in locker rooms, allowing men into women's sports also puts girls at greater risk of injury. In September of last year, North Carolina high school volleyball player Peyton McNabb suffered serious injury after a trans-identified male player spiked a ball at her head, rendering her unconscious. Peyton experienced extensive trauma to her head and neck and long-term concussion symptoms. Still to this day, a year and 3-ish months later, she is still partially paralyzed on her right side. Her vision is impaired, her memory is impaired, and she isn't playing college sports like she had dreamed of for herself. Just a few weeks ago in Massachusetts, a male player on the Swampscott High School field hockey women's team injured an opposing player with a shot to the face, sending the female athlete to the hospital with significant facial and dental injuries. Injuries, of course, can and do happen when females are playing against other females. But allowing men to play women's sports increases the likelihood and severity of...
I'm like, squirm, this is crazy. This is happening. This is actually like biological men are sending biological women to the hospital.
Such injuries. That's one of the reasons why, for 50 years, federal Title IX regulations have allowed schools to offer separate teams for women and men when the sports are contact sports or involve competitive skill. In April of 2023, the Department of Education proposed a rule that, if adopted, would reverse this presumption. Under the proposed rule, women's sports aren't just for women. They're for anyone who simply says they are a woman, unless a particular school can demonstrate to the satisfaction of the Department of Education that keeping a particular team female meets important educational objectives. The new rule mandates that every school in the country must demonstrate the unfairness of male participation on each specific women's team that they offer and develop rules that minimize harm to trans-identified athletes. But what about the harm to us? Who is working to minimize the harm done to female athletes? Let me be perfectly clear. A school that knowingly allows a male athlete to take a spot on a women's team or allows a male athlete to take the field in a women's game is denying a female student athletic opportunity. And that is sex-based discrimination, and it violates Title IX, regardless of what the new regulations might say. It is my sincere hope that members of this committee will take action to stop the Biden administration's illegal and administrative rewrite of Title IX. Of course, there is a place for everyone, regardless of gender identity, regardless of sexual orientation, regardless of race or what sports you play. There's a place for everyone to play sports in this country. But unsafe, unfair, and discriminatory practices towards women must stop.
That was just crazy. That was mind-blowing. have not seen that clip. This just happened like a few days ago because they're holding this committee to hear about trans women in sports. So that's where this clip is from. Paula has one too because she testified back in April, I think it was. But it is insane that, you know, biological women are having to defend themselves and stand up for this because, you know, we have the Biden administration trying to just say, yes, trans women can do anything they want to do. And that is harming biological women. I literally cannot believe this. Let's just go ahead and listen to what Paula has to say about this.
Good morning, Chairman Johnson and Ranking Member Scanlon, and members of the subcommittee. I'm Paula Scanlon, a spokeswoman and advisor for the Independent Women's Forum, and a former NCAA athlete. I am here today to share my personal story. I started swimming at a very young age, and by age 8, I was swimming competitively, and by late middle school, I was devoting at least 20 hours per week to swimming. I gave up countless Christmas holidays, weekends, and social events to work towards my goal of swimming Division I. A dream that came true when I began swimming for the University of Pennsylvania. While I am not an NCAA champion, I hold the New England Independent School League record in the 400-yard freestyle relay, a record that has stood since March of 2017. In September of 2021, Lia Thomas began participating as a member of the Penn women's team. Lia, formerly Will, had personal best times in every freestyle event that were faster than the women's world records. Once the season began, Thomas was leading the country in multiple events while only placing in the top 500 in those events on the men's team. Thomas later became an NCAA champion in the 500-yard freestyle, the first NCAA champion in our women's team history program. While many of you already know this, what you do not know is the experiences of the women on the University of Pennsylvania swim team. My teammates and I were forced to undress in the presence of Lia, a 6'4" tall biological male, fully intact with male genitalia, 18 times per week. Some girls opted to change in bathroom stalls, and others used the family bathroom to avoid this. When we tried to voice our concerns to the athletic department, we were told that Lia's swimming and being in our locker room was a non-negotiable, and we were offered psychological services to attempt to re-educate us to become comfortable with the idea of undressing in front of a male.
See, this, oh my God. See, this is what I mean by, like, you can't say about the LGBTQ community. Anything. They are the most protected class, I swear. That is crazy. This is exactly why I make this channel, because I'm Black and I'm gay and everything's racist and homophobic, and I'm here to tear that thing down. Everything's not racist and homophobic. You're not homophobic for not wanting, or transphobic for not wanting to share a bathroom with a biological male. Re-educate you to be okay with dressing out in front of men. They done lost their mind.
To sum up the university's response, we, the women, were the problem, not the victims. We were expected to conform, to move over, and shut up. Our feelings didn't matter. The university was gaslighting and fear-mongering women to validate the feelings and identity of a male. As an attempt to voice my concern about the situation we were forced into, revealing the unjust and unfair treatment, I wrote an op-ed for the Daily Pennsylvanian, the student-run newspaper. I approached this from a scientific, statistical perspective where I used my engineering background to discuss how Y chromosomes cannot be changed by any surgical procedure or systemic therapy. This biological fact lends itself to athletic advantages that cannot be mitigated by lowering testosterone levels, which are readily apparent in sports competitions and locker rooms. The Daily Pennsylvanian published my article on the evening of February 10th, 2022. Only a few hours later, my piece was retracted. I was given no notice nor reasoning. Again, I was silenced for my dissenting viewpoint and felt my First Amendment rights were denied by my university. This is representative of a greater issue, the destruction of free speech. Today, any discussion maintaining the sanctity of women's spaces is labeled transphobic, bigoted, and hateful.
That's happened to me on this channel. There has been content that just cannot be up here. There has been content that has been, limited monetization. Because even though I am supposedly a part of this community, I'm gay, and even though I'm black, like black voices matter, they really don't unless you're saying what they want you to say. And if you say anything else, you're always slapped the label of transphobic, bigoted, whatever it may be. And I'm here to set the record straight that you're not. None of us are. Like, we're literally just having genuine conversations and honest conversations about the science at hand. And that doesn't make any of us hateful. It doesn't make any of us transphobic. That doesn't make any of us bigoted. We're just actually caring about what's going on in our world that we're living in, that we're raising children in, that we're having to be around. And we're seeing things that we just... It's so unfortunate. It really is. It blows my mind. Like, I love making content. I love doing YouTube full time. I love like just sharing my opinion and attempting to at least be this voice of reason for everybody. But at the same breath, it's like, damn, I hate that it's even gotten to this point where I have to do it, you know? Like, why is this even a conversation? You know, like everything else, how did we get here?
What's bigoted and hateful is the discrimination against women and the efforts to erase women and our equal opportunities, dignity, and safe spaces. One might ask, why do I speak so passionately about issues that seem hypothetical, or some may perceive as only impacting a small number of women? This is not hypothetical. This is real. I know women who have lost roster spots and spots on the podium. I know of women with sexual trauma who are adversely impacted by having biological males in their locker room without their consent. I know this because I am one of these women. I was sexually assaulted on June 3rd of 2016. I was only 16 years old. I was able to forgive my attacker, but violence against women still exists. Let us not forget the viral Me Too movement that empowered female victims to speak up. It casts a spotlight on the widespread prevalence of sexual assault and abuse, including in scholarly and educational institutions. Individuals on this committee have previously stated violence against women is all too common. I am grateful for those members who have brought awareness to the violence against women in the past, but unfortunately, there's still much to be done. As a sexual assault survivor, many policies pushed today completely ignore my experiences and many women like me. I ask the members of this committee, please consider this issue outside the lens of political affiliations and understand the true impact of ignoring the realities of womanhood. Future generations depend on us.
I have chills. I have like, woo. Miss Paula, you ain't wrong, you ain't wrong, you ain't wrong. When it comes to biological men in these biological women's spaces, there comes a point where even lawmakers are trying to discuss, how do we determine the biology of the person? How are you going to confirm if they are a guy or a girl or not? And I have a very clear answer for this, but this is something that even Congress is questioning.
A lot of these proposals here involve invasion of privacy of all women. Ms. Goss-Graves, can you tell us a little bit about what sex testing looks like for youth in states with trans athletic bans?
It's terrible. In some states, any individual could challenge whether someone is a girl enough to play. In some states, it requires actual genital verification, which is shocking. And there aren't...
I can't with this performative behavior and the charades that is going on between Congresswoman AOC and this Fatima Gross-Graves, National Women's Law Center President and CEO. How are you the National Women's Law Center President and CEO and you're defending the replacement of women? The reason I'm so just over this performative tactics and saying they're being so dramatic regarding sex testing and testing the biology of students is because we're already doing it. And we have done it since before I was born, and I am 28 years old. It's called a physical. We all get them. If you're a student athlete, you get a physical. And if you're a man athlete, you get the 2 fingers, turn your head and cough twice, you get that. This physical It's a very clear indication if you are a male or a female. So they're just trying to gaslight everyone and making it seem like we're stripping people and having to examine them and make sure that they are the sex they are, when in reality, this is something we've already been doing and no one is talking about it. I came across this information on Ground News, which is an independent app and website that takes in thousands of sources from across the internet into one place that gives us the clear way to see what is happening in the media, what we're not being shown, who owns what, the biases, and much, much more. It's because this transparency and the amount of tools it equips us to learn information for ourselves that I am proud to have them as a continued sponsor of this channel. So when we're looking at this article, AOC warns of general examinations if trans athletes are banned from women's sports. The left, they're just saying, oh, warns that banning trans women from women's sports may lead to general examinations from all participants. And really the only people on the left is Pink News talking about it. You have the center being, modest about it, just being kind. And the right is just eating it up per usual. They're just being very dramatic. She admits boys and girls are different. New Dem talking point. But no one's bringing up the fact that we already do this. Like, am I going crazy? Let me know in the comments below. Did you get a physical? That is a thing, right? Because that clearly defines the sex of whoever it may be. And speaking of the left and how they're not really even talking about this, I was using blind spot feature on Ground News, which is a feature that shows you everything that the left isn't talking about, but the right is, and then everything that the left is talking about, but the right isn't. And this feature, oh my gosh, it's my favorite feature ever. I use it every day because it helps me stay grounded in what's going on in the news. It helps me get a clear picture of what I'm not being shown and what I am being shown. In an article I recently found on Blind Spot, absolutely blew my mind. It's this president of LGBTQ advocate group says women should learn to lose gracefully to trans competitors. So forget women. This is what I was talking about. Like, forget biological women. This is literally a slap in the face. And that's why the left isn't talking about it at all. All you see is the right people talking about it and eating it up. Literally, no one on the left is talking about it, and you're not going to see it if you're on the left. Because I feel like this would piss off a lot of liberal women. Or even the moderate women at least. But learn to lose gracefully, an absolute joke. If you're interested in staying up to date on any news related to the LGBTQ community, Ground News has a dedicated page that will highlight all the news from the left, the right, and the center regarding LGBTQ topics, including trans women in sports. And of course, you guys know I already have a deal for you. You can go to ground.news/Amir and start for as little as $1 a month, or get 40% off unlimited access so that you can stay informed on not just LGBTQ topics, but everything. And allow yourself to see the news and the media from a new perspective. Again, that is ground.news/Amir, and you can sign up there. That's where I get all of my news. I'm in there every day. I'm so thankful that they are a sponsor of this channel because we go through the news all the time and they're the only place I trust because, again, it is not even a news source. It's like a hub for all the news. They equipped you with everything you need to get the news for yourself, and I'm a big advocate for that because I don't want anyone to tell me how or what to think. I'm grateful that you all trust me, but like always, I will want you to go to the source as well. Now, let's see what child trans athletes have to say about this. When I say child, I'm referring to anyone under 18. Let's get into this.
I'm Rebecca. I am a 16-year-old transgender activist and author. I play field hockey and I love singing in a cappella groups at my high school. I love musical theater and I love to cook and bake. I mean, I do the things that typical teenagers do.
Fear-mongering lawmakers are passing an unprecedented number of bills barring trans children from playing sports with their classmates and friends because they're different. This is not fear-mongering lawmakers. It's literally, they're different.
I had the ability to be so comfortable in my identity that I could go out and discover new parts of me. So I started sports at 5. I started with soccer and then I quit and I went to gymnastics at 7. And I didn't really think I was a sports kid. Sports never felt right for me. When I was 10, 4th grade, they held a field hockey clinic at the high school. I went and I fell in love with field hockey. The girls were so amazing. They were so sweet. And I mean, the sport's fun itself. Like, you get to hit a ball with a stick. Who doesn't love that? And now I'm playing in high school, and field hockey's just been so crucial in me being a part of my community and just growing up.
This is so shady. What's bugging me the most about this entire video is that kudos to her. She's happy. they're not giving the full story of what it's like to be a trans person this young. They're not giving the full story of the people that are detransitioning. They're not giving the full story of the complicated medical procedures that will come from a life of transitioning. They're not talking about all that. They're making it seem like it's a shits and giggles. It's perfectly fine, perfectly normal. They just want to be a girl and let them be. When in reality, there are tons and tons of trans people alarming and letting us know that it is not this easy or simple at all.
I think in my brain it doesn't click. When someone says, I don't support that whole transgender thing. Well, it's just people being themselves. We're not these big, like, scary giants on the field hockey field. We're just having fun.
And no one considers you big and scary. It's the fact that you're different, and you're going to continue to be different as you're going through puberty and growing up. None of this is hateful. Again, I always have to say that because people love to say, and sometimes, you know, this platform loves to say that we're being hateful, but we're really not. We're just being realistic for the truth of the matter.
Having my family and friends support me throughout my journey and now, it's meant the world to me. It's allowed me to thrive as myself and discover different aspects of my identity that I wouldn't have known about otherwise.
Literally, no one's talking about the harms that come from transitioning. Like, do what you want after 18. But this being a child, even like finally you being yourself and being more tomboyish, that's whatever. But I just feel so bad because there's so many people detransitioning. And I've talked about it before on this channel. There's videos of this, but knowing the sheer amount of people who detransition, knowing the amount of surgeries and complications that come from transitioning, it breaks my heart to see so many minors set that path for themselves when they're minors, like minors. None of it makes sense to me. And I mean the utmost respect, but it's like a parent is not allowed to beat their child. They would get called CPS on them. You cannot physically abuse your child. But you can take them into the doctor and get their genitalia removed to affirm how they're feeling. Lifelong decision. A child. You have the right to do that. This child cannot vote, cannot smoke, cannot drink, but they can opt in to get their breasts removed or to get their male genitalia removed.
I started the estrogen when I was 16, lived that way until really a couple of months ago, 2 months ago. And then I got my surgery at 19, my castration. I was expecting it to like help my mental health. And it didn't do anything. I just wasted so much time. And all I did really was become a medical patient for life.
It was a decision that I was allowed to make at 15. And when they told me that I wasn't going to be able to breastfeed, at the time, it didn't really mean much to me because I was just a kid. I was just in high school.
This is where we're at. Going under the knife, under 18, it's a no for me. Biological men and biological women are just different, and that's okay. That's not a hateful sentence, that's just a fact. And thankfully, there are some student high school athletes that do understand this.
A major controversy in high school wrestling, which has gone national at this point. All this after a sophomore boy refused to compete against a girl in a state tournament. Joe Northrup said he withdrew because of his personal and religious beliefs. We're going to speak with him in just a moment. First, though, here's a look at how his decision has sparked a national debate. For a high school wrestler in Iowa, the chance to compete for the state championship is a revered and time-honored tradition. Sophomore standout Joel Northrup entered last week's state tournament ranked 5th in his weight class. He was hoping to come home with a title, but made the decision instead to walk away from the competition right before his first match. Northrup was pitted against 14-year-old Cassandra Herkelman, one of 2 girls to ever qualify for the state final.
And to be clear, this person's not, as far as I know, this girl's not trans. She was just competing with men. And what I'm showing you all is how there are some guys that recognize the biological difference between men and women, and they won't even do it.
85-year history.
I feel like more people will start to wrestle, just knowing that you can do it if you put your mind to it.
But Northrup refused to compete against his female opponent and forfeited the match, citing personal and religious reasons, making Cassandra the first female to win a match in a state tournament.
he stuck to his convictions on probably the biggest stage in wrestling in the nation, I would argue, let alone in Iowa.
It's those convictions and principles that Joel Northrop's parents say they have been teaching their son since he was a young boy. And despite the frenzy he's created and endured over the past week, they are proud of his decision. And joining us from Cedar Rapids, Iowa now is Joel Northrop. Joel, good morning to you. Tell us in your words, why did you decide to forfeit this match?
Well, I mean, wrestling is a combat sport, and it gets violent at times, and you get put in compromising holds and positions, and I just don't feel it's right that a boy should engage a girl in a manner like this.
You have worked really hard for this. So has Cassie. You're both very passionate about your sport. She clearly understands, to get to the level that both of you are at, what this sport entails, that there are a lot of rough moments. And she would know, too, that you weren't going after her as a girl, but as an opponent. Being that she's okay with it.
That doesn't make it right. Just because she's okay with it doesn't mean that it's right. Like, that could be applied in so many different scenarios, but just because it's okay doesn't mean it's right.
Why can't you then, in fact, step in the ring with her?
Well, like I just said, I mean, you get put in holds and that are compromising, and I mean, she deserves to be out there, but I do believe that if she does wrestle, she should wrestle other girls, and I should wrestle other boys.
She doesn't always have the opportunity, of course, to wrestle only girls. Do you feel that you were cheating her out of an opportunity at all to give her a win in this way with a forfeit?
Well, it's kind of a tough situation. I don't believe so. I mean, I just had to stick to my convictions, and it's hard for her, but I had to just hold on to what I decided in 5th grade, that I wouldn't wrestle a girl.
Now, Joe saying all of that is amazing. I totally agree with him that I feel like men should be wrestling men, women should be wrestling women, because it be like Riley Gaines said in the early beginning of this video, it can get dangerous.
I suffered from a concussion and neck injury that to this day I'm still recovering from.
Peyton McNabb is talking about an incident last fall when a transgender athlete she competed against spiked a volleyball and injured her.
I may be the first to come before you with an injury, but if this doesn't pass, I won't be the last.
There's literally women right now in the hospital because they were wrestling or fighting or competing against trans women. But no one's talking about that. And it's unfortunate that not all high schoolers can see that through that lens like Joe is. Because that can't be said for these high school trans track stars.
Terry Miller and Andrea Yearwood dominating the competition at the Girls Track and Field Championships in Connecticut earlier this month.
This is comical.
Coming in 1st and 2nd place, respectively. And while it was a state race, their wins are making national headlines. Not because of what they did, but because of who they are. 2 transgender girls.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because they're not regular girls. They're biological men. They're trans, yeah, but that affords them way different advantages.
2 petitions were even started in an attempt to change the current rule of the state's governing body of interscholastic sports. The rule states that students are entitled to participate on a team based on their gender identity, how they identify.
The girls athletes are at the physical disadvantage compared to the transgender female.
Right.
Bianca Stanescu started one of those petitions after her daughter Selena lost to Andrea and Terry at a track meet in May.
They have naturally testosterone within their body that has been proven to give a physical advantage in sports.
What blows my mind is that if an athlete smokes some weed, they in trouble. But you got athletes with full blood testosterone running through the veins, running against women, and it's fine. And as someone who ran track in middle school and high school, I understand how hard it is and how it comes down to like the timing and just how literally different men and women are. And it blows my mind that they're advocates for you know, for this to be okay. It frustrates me because all you have to do is look it up. Sha'Carri Richardson, she's been breaking records back to back, proving herself that she is one of the world's fastest women. She's outstanding and has been getting praise from the left, right, center. It doesn't matter. Everybody has been praising Sha'Carri Richardson. I'm sure you've seen her around everywhere. I want to take a look at the race that she ran earlier this year.
Women's 100 world final. The Jamaicans get out well. It's Sharika Jackson, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, Talou. Here comes Sha'Carri Richardson. Sha'Carri's done it. Sha'Carri Richardson has won the world title. She had to come from behind in the semi, but when it counted, she has done it.
World title, ran a 10.65, crushed the competition. Incredible feat for biological women. But now we're gonna look at that same competition, that same race, 100 meter run for men. Same competition earlier this year, just with men. Let's take a look at this.
Men's 100 final underway. Coleman gets that characteristic fantastic start. Noah Lyles is going to have to find something special. Let's Silly Tomago. Wow, Noah Lyles led right at the line.
Everyone is in the 9.8s. 9.84, 9.86, 9.87. Everyone's in the 9.8s. The slowest man there would have beat the women's record. The slowest man in this race is faster than Sha'Carri Richardson. And not even just this race, but if you look at the top 100 fastest men, they're all faster than all the fastest women. Oh my, I'm losing my mental. I'm trying to keep it cool, calm, and collected, but this is just driving me up a wall because it's frustrating just seeing women getting dominated, biological women getting dominated like this. Completely disrespected. Like, women do not stand a chance against some of these men, and that's not misogynistic, that's not hateful, that's not bigoted, that's just the facts. Men and women are different, and that's not to say that women are less. There are tons of things that women can do that men can't, and vice versa. It's okay. Part of men and women being different is why we love women's sports so much, because now that they have their own lane, they can be celebrated for their achievements in their own lane. But once you throw biological men in there, it changes everything. All it would take, literally all it would take, is for any of those top 100 men to just say, you know what, I'm living my truth. I'm a woman now. Boom. All the records are gone. All of them are gone. Like I mentioned before, we're striving so hard to be inclusive that we're starting to be exclusive. At the rate that we're going, it's going to be men's sports and then trans women in women's sports just dominating everything. Because isn't it funny how we always are just hyper fixated on trans women in sports, the male to female athletes? No one's ever talking about female to male. Why? Why? Why is everybody just focused on the male to female? Why is it all the male to female athletes that are just crushing records? But the same can't be said for female to male. Why? Why is that? And what's crazy is that the people I see rooting behind all this behavior is liberal women. Don't be a bigot. Don't be transphobic. Don't be hateful. Stand with trans women. Protect trans women. What about women? Enough about the trans women. What about women? What about yourself? What about other women? Matter of fact, what is a woman? The same people saying men shouldn't be making laws about women's bodies are the same people saying men can be women and women can be men. Well, which one is it? Because if you're saying men can be women and that trans women are women, then hell, what's the point of anything women related? You talk about empowering women. What is a woman? What is this woman that you're empowering? If men can be women and women can be men, then everything's null and void. We're all equal, are we not? There's no reason for separate bathrooms. There's no reason for separate dorms in colleges. There's no gender pay gap. If men can be women and women can be men, then there is no gender pay gap. Women get paid less. Okay, let's take a break here. Who are these women that are getting paid less? What is a woman? Who are the women that's getting paid less? Because if you're telling me that any man can identify as a woman, then boom, technically men can be women and there is no pay gap because everything's just flowing and fluid. Everybody can be anything. Nothing matters. There is no definitions. Woman of the Year award, what does that mean? Because I'm being told that people who have penises can still win Women of the Year awards. So what is a woman? You get what I'm saying? Like, we're trying so hard to please everybody, but like I said before, we can't be Captain Save-A-Ho all the time. You're going to get to a point where you're exiling someone. You can't, no matter what, you're going to piss off somebody on this planet. You can't be accepting to literally everyone because you're going to be exiling someone. And best believe, in regards to this question, what is a woman? We're going to be getting to that in another video, so be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for that. All in all, I really do want what's best for women. I'm not trying to exile trans women. I just think they need two separate spaces because it's clear that biological women are being very harmfully affected by this cause. So that's where I stand. I hope that you all enjoyed this video. Thank you for hanging in there. I appreciate the support more than you know. It means the world to me to have you all here, for us to sit down, have these candid and honest conversations about what's going on in our planet. And if you have any other content suggestions, things that you want me to talk about, let me know in the comments below. Just, if you're still here, put a cloud emoji. If you're still watching this, put a cloud emoji with a topic that I should talk about. Do that. That's how I know that you watched all the way to the end of this video, and I'll give you some special love and attention. So thank you for that. I appreciate it a ton. As always, like I say in every video, you can achieve anything you put your mind to. I mean, hell, this year's mind blown me too. But really, whatever you put your mind to, you can and will achieve. It's just a matter of putting in tunnel vision and just focusing on you and only you and your goals and your dreams. So do that. Focus on you. Be the best version that you can be. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Deuces.